The flood in April was worse than any flood that has ever happened. And it was in the dark, in the night. The swiftness of the water was much faster than before. The depth was higher than any flood that has ever happened in the Fiji as a whole.
In 2012, Invercargill Central Baptist Church will take 12 high school students into the heart of real poverty and need in West Fiji. Their purpose, to live amongst the local people, experience their culture, and attempt an almost impossible building project in less than 14 days.
We probably started out as a group of people that thought they could go to Fiji and change something. You know, I'm going to do something for these people.
We all had the idea of an overseas experience, like we'd be staying on the beach kind of thing in a little village. Maybe even the idea of a winter escape was in there too somehow.
I actually had no real understanding as to what we were walking into. I had minimal building experience.
I thought it was going to be a real challenge and
hopefully meet some cool people.
I was expecting like a real close encounter with God and to just be like amazed.
I'd sort of never been overseas without my parents, so I was just kind of like, I don't really know what's going to happen.
I was thinking that we were going to be going to some really remote place that has a few trees and a whole lot of dirt, and that we're going to be living in like mud flats.
To help the youth to experience God in a new way that we can't experience Him in New Zealand, and just to help them to get to that level of knowing God for themselves.
In the planning stages, I really believed that what we needed was a well-balanced missions trip with, you know, a nice, site manageable project, but some really good sort of community relationship building time where our team could really embrace and encounter the Fiji culture.
All of us just wanted to go and just be blessed by the people and to try and bless them as well. And so we went with different ideas and expectations, but we all didn't really know what was going to happen when we went.
You don't have to touch it unless it snaps.
The team travelled to Nawaka, a small village just outside of Nadi on the west coast of the Fiji mainland. As they settle in with their host families, it becomes apparent the true impact of the recent floods.
Well, Nawaka as a whole, and including all those squatter, those are a lot of those areas are squatter areas, very badly affected because it was low-lying and it was close to a river.
This is the river, and that day the storm was very hard.
Down by the river there was just all these houses that have disappeared.
And a lot of those houses were washed away because it was much more swifter than before.
So I didn't know where those people went.
Staying in the village of Nawaka, you looked around and you could just see actually how the floods affected everybody's lives and how horrible a time it must have been for them.
We have experienced so many floods here in Nadi, but none of those floods has ever touched our home.
It happened at early morning, like everybody was fast asleep, and we had my sister's baby was crying. Then when he stood up, the water was in the house.
Flood waters were up to their doors and they just had to evacuate and leave everything.
They said, everybody pack your stuff and put it on top of the beds. When we went out, the water was up to here.
Everything went underwater. All our items in the house was damaged.
The flood went right through and like destroyed all their furniture and stuff, and it went quite high up on the walls.
We have lost quite a few stuff at home.
Mud was up to here.
And we have to start building up again right up to this very moment, which is, you know, very hard for us.
And as I stood up on the roof of Bill's house and looked out and just saw how many homes had nowhere to go and how low-lying they all were, just sort of built a collage of just how much they really did need a house to be built on poles.
With the obvious need for a double-storied structure, all previous planning efforts are out the window.
I was really concerned about the lack of space around the site, the fact that there was no materials there whatsoever. The concrete slab that I thought we were going to be building on was really just a ring of blocks and dirt in the middle. With the lack of lifting equipment, the lack of scaffolding and ladders.
There was this inherent fear that we weren't capable, that we weren't enough.
We had to draw plans up and then get down to the timber yards and hardware stores and start pricing materials, and very quickly we realised we had nowhere near enough funds to build on poles.
Can we just build it on the ground?
Because we'd fundraised for a house on the ground.
Can we do something we know we can finish?
This practically, physically was not possible and financially was not possible, and I just didn't think it would be safe for our young people.
Dad basically said, we're making two plans. You know, we make the one we know we can do and the one we were afraid of. Well, he didn't say it, but, you know.
Desperate for a breakthrough, the team runs the numbers to find any way to make the project happen. And a fortunate misunderstanding about fundraising reveals a way forward.
I wasn't prepared to give up, you know what I mean? Even though I didn't know the bigger consequences or the bigger picture.
Especially because I just experienced a flood. Like, realistically, that was the only choice. I mean, the easy one was the one we could completely finish on the ground. But the right one was the one in the air.
The projected building cost was over $8,000, almost double what was expected. Looking over the numbers, they discovered that they had budgeted for the building in both individual and group fundraising. The team had fundraised for the project twice.
In the money that each person was meant to bring, that had building contingency money in it.
That's when this buzz hit. There's money. We can do this. Let's roll. Like, let's find out. And then it was like, double check that.
You know, I was scared that I hadn't got it right, and maybe I was fighting with a calculator I couldn't work.
Do we actually have it? Can we do this? Can we start doing it?
We had twice as much money than what we had.
And it was then that God started to reveal to us part of his plan.
God said, you know, I'm not afraid, and you have what you need. Do it, like, you know.
From then on, away, everything went.
With the plan approved, the team order building supplies. But in true island time, it takes 3 days for the first materials to arrive.
It literally felt like our window of opportunity to actually do anything was rapidly closing. We were getting closer to halfway through our whole time away.
At the beginning, you kind of felt purposeless, like you weren't there for a reason. We've been waiting and waiting, and we really wanted to get into it.
And we hadn't done anything yet.
Fiji.
When that first truck rolled in, it was attack.
It was just like, yes! It all became a little bit more real, like we were gonna get into the work. And
pretty exciting because I didn't really know what to expect. Hadn't done much building and stuff before.
I've never built a house.
I have no building experience in my life.
We got to dig in now, and especially because in our minds we're delayed.
First materials on the scene are poles and bags of cement. Getting busy, the guys dig the holes, while the girls prove they're more than just pretty faces, mixing heaps of fresh concrete.
Getting the holes dug was a great start. At least something had happened. There was some holes in the ground, you know, dug a hole. And then to see the poles arrive, I was a little bit in shock.
Just trying to pick one up was extremely hard.
Took like everyone.
So heavy, and I I'd lift it and nothing would work.
I was physically tapped. I was not holding any inch of what I had back.
Those are posts that are, in Fiji, are used by the power company for lamp posts, power poles. And machines lifted up.
No cranes, no lifting equipment whatsoever.
Impossible feat. Everyone had to give hands. Those things were so heavy that many hands make light work. Well, many hands make it achievable.
Yeah, probably had like 20 people just to lift one pole.
What I was doing, it didn't feel like that I was making much help.
And they saw the girls, or the whole team just getting, underneath it.
And they just marched them round and put one end down, and then they just heaved on those things as hard as they could go.
We would use anything to lift those poles.
We had stolen a rope from one of the young local lads' swing.
A kid's swing.
Got another rope from the truck.
And it stayed together.
God's strength only. Those poles rose up in the air.
Just lifting it up and putting it in the hole. That is awesome.
I was actually inside with Lala at the time. We were making lunch. And we looked out the window and there's like, everybody's out there with the pole. And Lala and me are just like, yes!
I don't really understand the logistics of building. It's not really my forte.
And then trying to figure out how do we get those ropes off there. And while we thought of it, the Fijian fellas just roared up there.
Oh, that was crazy when they climbed up the poles to get the ropes off the top.
Because we had no way of getting it back down.
They just climbed it like it's a coconut tree, but it was real high.
It was the only ropes we had for the whole build.
I remember the last pole that we had to put in.
Someone hammered it because it wouldn't quite go in.
It was caught on the edge and no one wanted to move it, so I went in there and I started pulling it and people was like, just be careful, and then I pulled it and then all of this water sprayed up and my mouth and eyes were open and it just went straight up my nose and in my face and in my mouth.
I thought it was actually quite cool that when it went down all the water squirted up, I'm like, that's the last log, that's like a little bit of fireworks with water.
Ah, that water tastes funny.
The people that were close in didn't think it was pretty good, that amazing.
And I was just like,
obviously, because it just went in their eyes and.
And it was actually sewerage.
Oh, what a great feeling to see those things standing up, way up in the air. Even the locals were looking up at these poles and thinking, whoa, it is so high. And it was high.
There's finally some significant progress. As the build gains momentum, so do our New Zealand crew.
Direction, please. Do you want to cut?
A building project in full swing doesn't always require 22 sets of hands, making time for some of the team to get to know the families and hang out with local kids.
It was awesome to have them around when we were building because it didn't feel like we were just working the whole time.
I don't know, we just sang songs and played games.
Play games, play with hair and look at all the toys that we had.
And so if we were out there playing catch, we could have 10 or 20 of them out there with us.
And that was a big thing because that kept them real safe as well as really entertained and just having a good time, which grew really strong bonds.
So it wasn't just work, it was making connections the whole time, and they saw us all the time, so they knew us.
And it was really cool, Lavinia, the wee girl, she was like my wee sister and we danced together. I gave her this wee book and she wrote heaps of verses in it and stuff, and I was like, whoa, she knows that many verses already. Like she had an incredible knowledge of the Bible. It was so cool. I really liked the ukulele. Little Jeremy, he was always like playing the ukulele. Henry Jr. He was so cute, oh gosh.
It was all about being with the people rather than what we were doing. Yeah.
Day by day, the sun continues to shine as the team continues to build. But with a commitment to building upwards, new challenges are faced.
Well, working on the ground is one thing, but the minute you got up off the ground, it's a whole nother story.
It was just crazy that we didn't have any actual safety procedures or anything.
It was really scary. Over in New Zealand, a 14-year-old girl would never be doing that kind of thing.
I was nervous about having our young people and local helpers 2.7 metres off the ground.
Just secretly, I just think you wanted to use a chainsaw at 3 stories.
Well, you know how it is.
Yeah, I was very aware of what potentially could happen.
The safety things are just not there.
At the ground, it actually didn't seem that high, but you got up there and you're a little bit, yeah, quite cautious. It was pretty high.
High that I wouldn't stand up on the top.
You didn't want to look down too much. And then I got up there and I was like freaking out because there was hardly anything to hold on to. And there were these just skinny wee beams to walk along. I couldn't do that. I had to hold on or I had to crawl across it.
Yeah, it was pretty scary for the start. When you got to do something, you just don't really think about it as much.
And so having a rope handrail so people can hold on to, because that was all we had, and being blessed with some timber that we could build a scaffold with was another good thing.
You know, you really felt you had leaders who were ensuring as much as possible within the conditions, within the context, that kids were safe.
We were very aware that this job was beyond us, and each day the team would come together and we would pray that God would give us the energy and the drive for that day.
You know, blessing the work that we're about to do, and we're just all together.
Like once you prayed, everything went according to plan.
I saw it move right throughout the team. It was amazing to see what was accomplished praying to God.
He took that offering and he blessed it and multiplied it.
You felt like you needed to constantly pray.
And when you didn't, how you could see the stress come through and how you could see the tiredness.
Like people start making mistakes and stuff.
There's one day of building where we forgot to pray, and just everybody was at each other, you know, yelling at things.
Everything was going wrong. Everybody was just so grumpy and everything. And
we were getting jaded and
people were doing things wrong and they were getting upset. And then I remember it because it was like, I don't know, 11 o'clock, and we're right in the middle of things, and everybody just stopped. And we just went down there, prayed, and then we came back to it, and everything just went smoothly after that.
Everything just started looking up.
Day by day, the team just delivered in superhuman ways.
It was a really good learning curve because it taught me to pray so much more.
It made me realise that if we're constantly praying, then that can happen over here as well.
Like, I just pray all the time. It's really cool.
Why do we not pray every day with everyone all the time, and then it might help our daily life?
Time is fast running out to complete the project, but with God, the ultimate foreman on site, both Kiwi and Fijian work side by side to get roofing.
That was a bit scary, putting the roof on, so we just had to pray to God, help us keep the team safe with these sheets of iron that are 6.5 metres long.
I was actually amazed at the number of young people that got up there.
I found it a little bit surreal being up that high, and
I helped with the putting the wire across the roof.
And others were preparing materials or cutting timber or sheets of iron on the ground and then passing it up to the guys up the top.
We got a piece of wood and we put the metal over it and just hammered it and tried to keep it all straight and stuff to make sure that it would fit with the roof and everything. I think it was for the roof. I don't actually know what it was for.
Just chucking up tools and helping keep the children and the wee dogs away from the building site.
Mainly, I sat around the base of the building project and handed things up, or caught things, or supplied water and lollies, and
take the nail and hammer and put that in there, or can you cut this for me, or can you do that, can you pass me up this, that'd be real good. And
we had some amazing Spidermen, both our own team and some of the locals.
Like, they were real good at walking on the heights, like they just walk across the top of it like it's just on the ground.
Yeah, well, Fabi was Lala's son. He'd be in his mid-20s. Really felt like the two of us could work together and really joke around. When we were up on the roof, we were focusing on what we were doing, of course, because we had to be safe, but we were also having a good time.
Thanks to my chicken buddy here and my ogre buddy here.
Watching the Fijians and our team work together and the youth, the relationship that was built while building, they were priceless.
I actually love the way some of them just camped up on the roof, even though it didn't look like they're doing anything. They were conversating and becoming community.
There was just a real sense of community and the way everyone just kind of worked together.
That's what the missions trip was about, doing life together, helping each other hand in hand.
Time on this building site, you are inside.
We had gone way past what I thought was possible.
Oh, it was pretty rewarding once you finish. Like, you look back and say, oh, our whole team built that.
There was nothing in that building site, but then by the end of it there was like this house that was just up high off the ground, and like just knowing that we had done all that.
Seeing something of this magnitude go up so quickly. As a team we did it, but I don't believe with our experience or anything like that anyone could do that in 6.5 days.
And we all know that, you know, God helped us to get that building done. There was no way that it could be done in humanness.
And that's why you had people coming from around the settlement.
On more than one occasion, local builders had come.
I remember this because they all stood with Dave and they're like, when did you start, you know? And we're like, oh, you know, 6 days ago. And they're like, oh, it would take months for this to happen.
Just in awe at what's happened in those few days. You're talking about a couple of months' work there, you know, just putting the thing up.
They realised that it was superhuman speed, and they realised, you know, this is just not possible.
And yet, with God's grace, we got it up there in about a week.
Just the building site exploded with progress because God blessed us, and you know, we're prosperous because of Him, and not because of what we did.
It's just bubbling with joy, you know, seeing the manifestations of the power of God within that work.
They realised that this work had been done with the help of our God, Nehemiah 6:16. With the house all but finished, a plan is made to ensure the project's full completion.
John came in to have a look at the project. He's a builder by trade and was willing to actually do any of the work to complete the project, and was really excited to see how the building had been made and how easy it would be to put the floor in and fit the windows. It was wonderful to have him there before we left and to be able to explore with him the possibilities for the floor and where to from here.
There's always little remindings of Fiji.
I just sort of realised what first world problems we have. Like,
you'll go to school and things that are so important to all the other kids just don't seem important to you at all.
If you want something new, just be like, oh, well, they don't have it over there. Like, they have a lot less than we have, so I don't need anything.
Well, most of the stuff I have is like just extra. It's not something that I need to live.
We don't have really what you have at your home. We don't have it. Even the power, we don't have the light. When we have water, we have cooking facilities. And even in our kitchen, we don't have the sink and whatever. What is more important to us is our family. All what we have is for our family, and our family are really happy to have whatever we have at the moment. And they enjoy it and they love it, and that's how we enjoy Fijian way of life at the moment.
The people that did have a little bit, like a house or something like that, they knew what they had. Like, they knew how blessed they were, and they praised God that much harder because they knew they had it. It's so easy to get lost in this country with everything we have, to step God back because other things can sustain us. It's harder to seek God, even though we should be praising Him that much more. We should be worshipping harder than them because we have that much more to worship for. Well, for all the blessings we have. But somehow it works in reverse. I don't know why. We have twice as much and we worship half as much. Yeah. It's pointed out a lot of things wrong in my life. And I'm not saying they're all fixed. I'm just saying that they've pointed it out and I've got another goal to strive towards.
I think about things so much more, and I also think I complain so much less.
Well, I actually could do quite a lot more and live with a lot less than I think I need or than I do.
I always think now, is this what God would want me to do? Is this how Jesus would act?
I put God first before a lot of things that I do now.
God is my life, and
I want to focus more on God and helping others see Him and helping others in general.
He's like the centre now, and it's really cool.
Now God is high priority.
So I have a whole new understanding of just how much God loves His people and knows what they need and knows how to give them what they need if His children will just trust Him.
I want to say thank you very much to you people back in New Zealand who have provided so much for this group to come and give us a helping hand and build a home, which is a real blessing to us. We want to thank you and your family for your support to make this trip a successful one. Thank you very much.